The story begins in a place surrounded by mountains with mysterious faces imprinted, and the sky is red while there are thunders. In this place, there is a ferocious monster roaring so loud as he is fighting against our story protagonist, Kim Taehyun. Taehyun was angrily screaming while holding a dagger and bravely faced the monster. He struck it in the mouth and the monster was growling in pain. He grits his teeth while leaning on the ground, and his hand is trembling while pressing the knife to the monster's throat. After a few minutes, he finally defeated it. He stood and wiped his face, which had the blood of the monster. He was glad that he could use his own power to defeat a monster by himself. At the same time, someone called his attention by calling him an unawakened one. The man who called him was in front of him, standing above the corpses of the monsters they all killed. There are still a lot of monsters heading their way and aiming to kill them all. What are you doing? If you're apported, then you should do your job and collect the drops. The man screamed, and the man beside him added that Kim Taehyun wasn't hired just for him to fool around. Kim Taehyun was stuttering and apologized to them. The hunters then faced back to the monsters while saying that Kim Taehyun is just a useless porter. Taehyun felt insulted, but he could not do anything since those hunters were right. He was just nothing but a porter. This world changed after the Abyss was discovered. The Abyss is another dimension where monsters that only existed in fantasies actually existed. After the discovery of the Abyss, people awakened transcendental powers, and with those powers, they defeated monsters and explored the Abyss. By that, the standard of assessing someone was no longer based on personality or effort, but on their awakening rank. If their awakening rank was high, then anyone could live a guaranteed good life. However, Kim Taehyun is not one of them. He is just a porter who only carries around the cargo of the awakened, and an unawakened who has never even opened a status window at the age of 35. As long as he doesn't awaken, he will never be able to live the kinds of lives the hunters lead. At the present time, Kim Taehyun was picking up the loot just like what the hunters wanted him to do. He was about to inform the hunters that he got all the booty from his current side, but then, he was shocked to see all the hunters died. He was looking around, assuming that there were still some remains, but then, all he saw was lifeless. He was so confused thinking about what just happened. At the same time, a monster appeared, telling him that he was the last one left. This monster was so tall. It looks like a lady monster that has several arms. It had long horns and was faceless. It was heading toward Taehyun while Taehyun was running away as he was scared. While running, he was staring at the face of the monster behind him and discovered that it was an SSS-ranked monster Asmodeus. Kim Taehyun prepared his dagger while screaming in fear. The monster's arms extended and instantly cut Taehyun's arm. The dagger he was holding flew away and he fell on the ground while screaming in agony and held his cut arm. He was crying in pain and he still dared to glance at the monster. Unfortunately, the monster casts some magic power and points it to Taehyun's head. His blood was dripping from his forehead and he continuously cried while asking on his mind if this was his fate. He recalled his life from how his parents passed away in a car accident and was endlessly bullied in school. He lived being ignored for his entire life for being unawakened. However, his life is going to end after only carrying around cargo, which makes him mad at himself and also for this awakening. He grits his teeth out of anger and his blood still dripping. When his blood dropped on the ground, it suddenly sparkled and all of his awakening conditions were satisfied. A silhouette appeared in front of him. There's a golden long stare and a human above it. Taehyun was confused while staring at it, but he could not see any faces and only a human form light. He glanced around him as he remembered that he had been attacked by Asmodeus just now. One thing that comes to his mind is that Asmodeus has stopped. You're focused on someone like Asmodeus stopping, the mysterious man said behind him. Taehyun was startled and immediately turned around. "You, who are you?" he asked, and this mysterious man answered that he was called as king, and that Taehyun should not worry about his identity. He sat down on his throne while proclaiming that he would bestow authority on Taehyun from now on. Listening to what he stated makes Taehyun more confused. He also looked scared and he was shocked when this mysterious man told him that it's not good to be so distrustful. "I just admired your will and tenacity and came to choose you. However, it'd be good to think that this kind of miracle won't happen again," he added. A blinding light happened while Taehyun asked him what he meant to say. The mysterious man laughed while telling him Taehyun to patiently wait for his time. He said that a day where Taehyun will understand everything shall come. Taehyun's eyes rounded the moment he saw a monster above them appeared. This monster blows a dazzling flame toward Taehyun, and after it, everything disappears. From this darkness, he heard a voice saying that Taehyun was just sleeping. Later, Taehyun realizes that his eyes are closed. He heard a few people talking, waking him up, and believed that Taehyun was just ignoring them. Taehyun slowly opened his eyes and the man greeted him and suddenly slapped his face. "Are you awake now?" the man asked, but Taehyun was puzzled. As he glanced at these men, he realized that it was Hyuksu, the one who always bullied him in his high school days. He was so confused about why Hyuksu appeared in front of him now, knowing that the last place he was standing was an abyss. Hyuksu continuously slapped him, but he didn't care at all as he was trying to deduce things. He then recalled the mysterious man who told him that he was now bestowed the authority. At this point, a status window appeared. It shows his information. Kim Taehyun, 19 years of age, an F rank with a skill pre. Upon seeing his current age, he concludes that this day was 16 years ago. He suddenly chuckled as he realized that there was a miracle happening to him now, and that is he had come back from his past. He laughed so loud which startled Hyuksu and the other men. Hyuksu deduces that Taehyun has gone crazy. Taehyun still laughed, which annoyed Hyuksu, but at this point, Taehyun had the confidence to punch Hyuksu in the face. Hyuksu vomits blood and falls to the ground. His comrades were shocked to see Taehyun dared to fight back. Taehyun smiled widely and his tears dropped while saying that he was now finally awakened. He was just standing still and wiped his tears. The bullies suddenly activate their powers while rushing to him and calling him a nobody. When the bully attacked him with a flame, he deflected it and punched the bull in the face. He then kicked the other man in the stomach, which made the man fly away. Taehyun was so emotional knowing that he did everything he could throughout his entire life as an unawakened for 35 years. From fundamental physical training to all the known information about abyss and monsters, knowledge of various skills, and even interpersonal combat skills. So he believes that there is no way that he'd lose to untrained thugs like these bullies who don't even know anything yet. The two men dashed to him once more and Taehyun hit them for the second time and knocked them out in an instant. He was satisfied after defeating these bullies, but he still admitted that he had to redo physical training. He glanced on his side the moment he heard Hyuksu talk. Hyuksu stood and he couldn't believe that Taehyun was now awakened. Because of his anger, he transformed his body into stone using his C-rank stone skin skill that strengthens the body with stones surging from the skin. He then swung his fist to punch Taehyun and Taehyun managed to dodge. Taehyun grits his teeth while dodging away, and he is startled the moment he sees a scary aura of Hyuksu jumping toward him. The ground exploded and Hyuksu was kneeling on the ground. Taehyun appeared behind him with a clenched fist, but Hyuksu was aware of it. Hyuksu immediately turned around and Taehyun ended up punching Hyuksu in the face. Taehyun was dumbfounded upon seeing his own blood splattered around. "Whatcha doing?" Hyuksu asked. Taehyun pulled back his hand and realized that he hurt his own hand by hitting Hyuksu. Hyuksu punched him, causing him to fly away and slide on the ground. His face was full of blood, but Hyuksu was not satisfied yet. "You should have known your limits while acting up. Coming back to your senses now, are you?" Hyuksu stated while heading to Taehyun. He ironically smiled and added that Taehyun was just a lowly unawakened bastard. He continuously belittles Taehyun and believes that Taehyun will struggle around with his awakened skills. All awakened possess a skill and a rank, starting from F rank, which is almost the same as a normal human, to S rank, with those in the territory of being called monsters. The physical abilities and skills of the awakened rise exponentially. But what Taehyun possesses is a skill unknown and unheard of ever before, but of the worst rank. With these, he believes that there's no way he has a chance of winning against Hyuksu, who's a C rank. At this moment, Hyuksu was shocked to see Taehyun suddenly possess a mysterious power. He slowly stood while his body was surrounded by a scary aura. For some reason, he doesn't feel like he's going to lose. Hyuksu was staring at him and was scared by the aura he possessed. By seeing these, he now confirms that Taehyun really awakened. Taehyun at the same time was staring at his own hand and concluded that this thing that happened to him now was predation. He can feel the magic move to his will. Even he himself doesn't know what is happening. One thing he was sure of was that everything would be over once he killed the caster. Hyuksu dashed to him and was about to punch him. Taehyun extended his hand to cast the skill. After casting it, Hyuksu was not able to get near him. Hyuksu was confused while Taehyun was controlling his magic. He doesn't feel pity at all as he is determined to defeat Hyuksu by his own capability. His eyes were full of anger while Hyuksu was already annoyed at him and screamed in anger. Luckily, the stone skin of Hyuksu shattered and his blood splattered when Taehyun hit him hard. The students inside the school weren't aware of what was happening. The surroundings become red because of Taehyun's magic power, but no one still notices it. The area where Taehyun was full of smoke. Taehyun was emotionless while seeing Hyuksu pass out and fall to the ground. Taehyun looked so tired. His sweat dropped from his forehead, and at the same time, he noticed the window notified that predation had been completed. As a result of preying upon a target, his rank has changed to E rank from F rank. His hands slowly became stone and the system said that he obtained a new skill, and that is the stone skin of Hyuksu. After a few seconds, the system appeared to inform him that stone skin skill had been registered. After the commotion, Taehyun went to the school link. The teacher nurse was dumbfounded seeing him bring 3 unconscious men. Taehyun greeted the lady with a slight smile on his face, but the lady screamed in confusion. In the end, Hyuksu and the others were lying on the clinic bed to rest. The nurse's healing ability was used to treat Taehyun's injuries, and in addition, he chooses to lie to the nurse since the lady needs to get information on why they were hurt. Taehyun reasoned out that the 4 of them rolled down the stairs. Luckily, he managed to make the nurse process without any more questions. Now, he was fully healed and got out of the school. He feels great knowing that he awakened and got revenge on Hyuksu. But then, his problem now is his predation skill. His rank, which barely managed to change after training his entire life, increased after a single fight. It may be an F rank, but the power exceeds that of a C rank. He can even steal the skills of the opponent's defeat. Up until now, he was so confused about why the guy from the abyss gave him power like this and why the guy made him regress. He had countless questions, but he knew himself that there was one thing he had to do aside from searching for an answer, and that is to find out about predation. Meanwhile, he arrived at his house and he smiled knowing that it's been a while since he came home. After his parents passed away, he stayed with his uncle. He entered inside the house while telling himself that he should search for information regarding similar skills he have since his uncle would be back late today. As he entered, he was startled when he saw people inside the house. One of them is as young as him. This man uttered his name and he recalled that this young man was a person named Hwang Yi-young, his cousin. He also noticed something, that was a box on the ground and there was money on it. He then remembers that Yi-young wanted to hang out with the other bullies and took all the money in his house, then caused a huge fuss. The man together with Yi-young asked about who this kid came in. Yi-young was stuttering and he whispered his answer to the leader bully. Taehyun believes that the leader of these men was also Yi-young's cousin. If you don't want to get beaten up, don't get involved and just pass by, the leader said. He said that they just need to take what they can use from this house and leave after. He patted Taehyun's head and called him brother unawakened. Taehyun stared at him and suddenly smiled. Perfect. I wanted to test it, Taehyun stated, which confused the man. Without explaining, Taehyun then punched the man and pushed him to the corner. The man vomits saliva unintentionally while his men are shocked to see him beaten by the person whom they thought an unawakened one. Taehyun swung his arm and the leader got scared and asked him to stop, but then Taehyun didn't want to give any mercy. He immediately activated his predation skill and slightly smiled. Unfortunately, the system notified that his predation function was inaccessible. He was so confused as to why nothing happened while the leader of the thieves was also puzzled. After seeing his predation skill wasn't working, he started to be nervous. His sweat dropped from his forehead and he paused while his hand was still above his opponent's face. He wasn't aware that his opponent was about to hit him. He wasn't able to react, so the man indeed slapped him in the face. Taehyun fell to the ground and his opponent then stood together with his 2 comrades. They activate their skills together. A C rank bind skill, a C rank poison skill, and a C rank bleed skill. They aimed all these skills at Taehyun, who was now standing, and his eyes rounded the moment he saw all these skills. The men didn't give him any mercy and the house suddenly dazzled. A purple smoke appeared and the thief's leader uttered, "How dare an unawakened pretend to be awakened? He doesn't know his place." To his surprise, he saw the shadow of Taehyun inside the purple light, and at the same time, the system notified Taehyun that the usage of skill had been sensed. Bind, poison, bleed confirmed. The 3 skills were mixed together and the system said that due to a mysterious power, resistance was successful. It suddenly didn't work, and neutralized skills as it pleased. Taehyun uttered. He was staring at his opponent and he wasn't sure at all what was happening. One thing he was sure of was that this attack from him now would be strong enough to defeat all his opponents. He strongly punched his opponent without any words, and in just one punch, the man's face bled and could not be drawn. After a few minutes, Taehyun's face was satisfied seeing these bullies lying on the floor and being knocked out by him. Fighting against them makes him learn 2 things. The status window is only visible for the awakened. It details information on the awakened, but not all of it is displayed. His current rank this time is E rank with 3 points strength, 6 points stamina, 5 points speed, 10 mana points, 71% fatigue, 10/10 magic, and has 2 skills which are predation that can prey on the desired target, and use 5 mana points, and his stone skin that can strengthen his body uses 1 mana points. First, until just now, mana wasn't lacking in the slightest, yet predation didn't activate. In other words, aside from the description, factors other than mana must affect its use. Besides that, the passive effect of the Predation skill isn't mentioned in the skill description. It resists and neutralizes skills related to abnormal conditions, such as poisoning or bleeding. Now, he can gradually confirm whether his speculations are correct. While he was thinking, Yeung suddenly bowed down in front of him. "Brother, after seeing such an impressive side of you, I, Hwang Yeung, your cousin, am reflecting on my actions," Yeung stated. He asks for forgiveness from Taehyun, but Taehyun is just silent and sees him as a pathetic kid. Yeung was even willing to lick Taehyun's shoes or bark like a dog as long as Taehyun would forgive him. While staring at him, Taehyun knew him as a fox back then but never expected it would be this bad. Yeung was barking very loudly, which makes Taehyun annoyed, but it was not important to him. What mattered the most was that he knew there would be an incident that would happen today in their city. Yeung continuously barked like a dog and he was surprised when he heard Taehyun forgave him. "In return, come with me to get something done," Taehyun said with crossed arms. At the same time in the city, the sky became darker and there was a restricted area that only authorized personnel could enter. Inside, 3 people were staring up above as they saw monsters inside a gate break. Gate break is a phenomenon where monsters appear as a path to the abyss suddenly opens up. If left unattended, a dungeon disaster will occur. According to the man in front, it has been 10 years since the last dungeon break. He also mentioned that the gate was suddenly created, which is why the monsters are swarming over. The ladies behind him were scared, thinking that the dungeon disaster was only a moment away if they didn't do anything now. They suggested letting the neighborhood area evacuate, but the man told them that there was no need. And that is because of his B-rank skill barrier on their side. By this, he was confident that monsters could not attack them. He said that the rank for this gate break is only C, so he concludes that the strongest monster that comes out of the gate would be C rank. At this moment, the monsters were pushing the barrier until it shattered. The monsters were rushing like they were so hungry. The man is still explaining and the ladies warn him about the monsters behind. These monsters were not the same physically. They were in different sizes and faces. The man claims that as B-rankers, they are more than capable of handling these C-rank monsters. The monsters were attacking them, and at the same time, Yeung was heading to this area together with Taehyun. He was calling Taehyun sir, which made Taehyun annoyed. According to Taehyun, this gate break's initial main estimate is C rank. On the other hand, the control personnel are B rank, so there won't be any issues against C rank opponents. Yeung agreed with him not until Taehyun said that his conclusion was only possible if the dungeon was actually a C rank dungeon. Going back to the restricted area, lots of monsters have been killed. The man was still shocked knowing that these low rank monsters pierced through his barrier. It was so strange for him, and he even concluded that the mana overflowing from these monsters might be above his rank. He was able to activate another barrier, and the monster inside of it was trying to break it again. While staring at it, they were dumbfounded as they saw a huge monster roaring so loud. This scary monster was able to break the B rank barrier, and it was growling while going towards the humans. It turned out that this monster was a rank giant ogre. The man was sweating and he was shocked to confirm that this huge monster is a higher rank than him. An explosion happened in the area, and Yeung at the same time asked how Taehyun knew of this. He wasn't aware that Taehyun only came back to the past and had already gone through this disaster. He was sure that far from seeing monsters, authorities didn't send an evacuation order just like what happened in the past. Since he was sure that Yeung wouldn't believe him, he just lied that his intuition said what would happen. At this time, the monsters were attacking the citizens. People were all scared and were running away while saying that it was a gate break. Taehyun was staring at it while Yeung became scared and shocked that Taehyun's prediction happened. "You remember what I told you to do, right? Go on then," Taehyun said. Yeung was hesitant as he was worried for Taehyun. But then, Taehyun turned around while activating his stone skin and said that he would get rid of the monsters and be right behind Yeung. At the same time, in a tall building, there was a man at the upper floor looking at the city lights while saying that the gate break that was thought to be a C rank turned out to be an A rank. He also believes that no reinforcements are possible as others are busy in dungeon conquests and abyss exploration. Now, the only solution to this crisis is for an A rank awakened. He added, he was currently facing a man and he said that this man was their only hope and he wanted this man to help their city. The man was crying heavily. He is an A rank awakened, the so-called Blade of Lunacy, On Hyunsu. Everyone, hang in there. The hero, I, On Hyunsu, am coming. Hyunsu uttered. Hyunsu's specialty is 8th grade syndrome. At this time, Taehyun fights the monster alone. He was punching it using his stone skin. He has defeated numerous monsters and used his power to crush them. While fighting, he smiled as he finally confirmed that the cause of his Predation's failure is based fatigue. His current fatigue is 52%, and if it passes 70%, his predation won't activate. Most skills are activated based on the usage of mana, but that doesn't mean they can only have to worry about mana. That is because of fatigue. It increases if they use a skill or do physical activity, and the higher it gets, the more power of the skill decreases, and the heavier the physical body gets. It's unfortunate that there's a lot to consider, but Taehyun found out that if he absorbs dead monsters instead, he can recover mana without the usage of mana. He was trying his skill on the monsters, and as per the system, the target's life activity has stopped, so mana will not be consumed. The system also notified that Taehyun had succeeded in complete predation and had recovered his mana. In addition, his rank has changed to D rank. His predation and stone skin were also now a D rank, and he deduces that the more he uses predation, the more he can grow. At this rate of growth, he can become S rank or SS rank, or might be able to become the first SSS rank. That's basically done. Should I go back to Yeong? He uttered, but then heard noises behind him. It was Hyunsu, fighting against the A-rank giant ogre. Hyunsu was using a golden sword, and he was so mad while saying that he would get payback for the souls of the people that these monsters had killed. This warrior of justice, on Hyunsu, will judge you, he screamed emotionally. Taehyun was staring at him, wondering who he was. At the same time, the monster roared with a clenched fist and was about to punch Hyunsu, but Hyunsu pointed his sword at the monster, and the monster was surrounded by a golden light. Hyunsu then ended its life and the area exploded. After easily defeating the giant ogre, Taehyun was impressed. Because of this, he believes that this man in front of him is an A-ranked awakened who single-handedly solved the gate break before Taehyun regressed. While staring at Hyunsu's face, he realizes that it is Hyunsu, the strongest awakened in his past life. Idiotic monster. He died at the hands of Justice Sword, Hyunsu uttered. Taehyun was staring at Hyunsu, wondering why he was here. He recalled that before he regressed, he knew that Hyunsu had a bloody battle with a giant ogre on the other side of the city. Citizens, I hope you'll be at peace up there, Hyunsu uttered. Taehyun was still staring at him, and he paused when he realized that Hyunsu is a skill sensed. All of a sudden, Hyunsu was struck from behind. He vomited blood while he turned his head around, and he was shocked that he got attacked by someone. I caught you, on Hyunsu, the man who stabbed him said. On the other hand, Yeong headed to the place of their school nurse, Choi Naeung. As he entered, he found the lady lying on the couch and was asleep. Yeong was here because of Taehyun's demand, but he was hesitant to follow Taehyun. He recalled how Taehyun told him a while ago that a lot of people would die later tonight. That time they were talking, Taehyun mentioned that the one who would die was their school nurse, Choi Naeung. He explained that Choi Naeung would die by focusing on relief activities rather than evacuating. He asked Yeong's help since Yeong has a sleep skill, so he wants Yeong to put the school nurse into a sleeping state and evacuate her. Taehyun also promised him that he would handle the rest as long as Yeong saved their school nurse. While Yeong was standing in front of the nurse, he was still wondering how Taehyun knew everything that would happen. He was so puzzled since he didn't get enough explanation. He then concludes that Taehyun might have awakened a skill to see the future. He really believes his conclusion, and he was impressed while thinking about it. Going back to the restricted area, Taehyun saw Hyunsu's blood splattered, but he still dared to smile, and said that something had gone seriously wrong. Who are you? Reveal your identity, Hyunsu said with anger. The man who stabbed himself chuckled, knowing that Hyunsu was still alive even after having a vital point stabbed. But then, he was already expecting it since Hyunsu is in a rank after all. This will make hunting fun, he said. He is Han Sang-do, a B-ranked villain with stealth skill. They can the awakened who commit crimes as villains. And B-ranked villain Han Sang-do of them is a homicidal maniac who, during the gate break, went around murdering for his own thrill. But Taehyun was sure that both Sang-do and Hyunsu never met before he regressed. He was staring at both men, wondering if the future had changed because of him. At this moment, Hyunsu was full of anger, knowing that the man who dared to stab him was a mere villain. He dashed towards Sang-do as he was eager to punish Sang-do with his own hands. Unfortunately, he paused as he heard a loud noise. He also shook, and even Sang-do was startled. Later they realized that the giant ogre was brought back to life and was trying to stand. The ogre roared so loud, and Hyunsu was dumbfounded seeing the ogre alive as he already killed it earlier. Sang-do at the same time ironically smiled as he was impressed with the incredible regeneration ability of the giant ogre. At this moment, the ogre punched the ground with a strong force and both men flew away. Sang-do was laughing as he planned to leave Hyunsu to this giant ogre, expecting that Hyunsu would be killed this time. He is about to leave, but he senses someone behind him. It was Taehyun, standing with his 2 hands in his pocket. To think we had a spectator, nice. The more prey there is, the better, Sang-do uttered. He then dashed toward Taehyun with his weapon and Taehyun panicked upon seeing Sang-do's killing intent. Sang-do was holding 2 weapons and he was too greedy to kill Taehyun. The moment he hit Taehyun's face, Taehyun was able to activate his stone skin in time. He smiled and called Sang-do a moron. He then kicked Sang-do in the face, causing Sang-do to slide backward while vomiting blood. Sang-do manages to stand still and realizes that Taehyun is also awakened. He was shocked when he heard Taehyun utter his name. Taehyun said that Sang-do is a lunatic who's going around omitting murder using the stealth skill. Great running into you, he added with a smile on his face. The battle between them has started once again and Sang-do tries to strike Taehyun's hand but it remains unharmed because of the stone skin. Sang-do swung his weapons and Taehyun always used the stone skin to block the opponent's weapons. Sang-do was slashing Taehyun and Taehyun tried multiple times to hit Sang-do but he admitted the fact that Sang-do was really hard to deal with. Sang-do moved backward while saying that Taehyun was certainly skilled enough to be confident. He also proclaimed that he never knew his blade would be useless to Taehyun. While they were busy fighting, Hyunsu was also trying his best to officially kill the giant ogre. I don't know how you know of me, but you must be thinking you have a chance of winning because my attacks aren't working on you, Sang-do stated. Taehyun was just staring at him with anger as he felt belittled. Sang-do ironically smiled and added that Taehyun should know that the world doesn't go according to his plans. At this point, Taehyun activates his stealth skill and vanishes. Taehyun was annoyed by the fact that Sang-do hit himself. He turned around and swung his arm while saying that Sang-do's attack was still useless. Sang-do appeared behind him while asking him if he was sure of his conclusion. Sang-do attacked him in the arm, and this time, Taehyun's arm was sliced and his blood splattered. He was dumbfounded upon seeing his own blood. Sang-do laughed while swinging his weapons and boasted that he had hunted a lot of guys like Taehyun, those who mistake their skills to be invincible. With your weakness exposed, you're just flustered and dying to run away, aren't you? You better understand this before you die, he said while continuously attacking Taehyun, and Taehyun still used his stone skin to block the attacks. For Sang-do, all skills have a weakness, and now he attacked Taehyun and passed by behind. Taehyun's blood dropped from his body and he was panting heavily. He was standing still and admitted to himself that he didn't know stone skin had such a flaw. Stone skin wasn't totally blocking attacks. Unbearable shock would crush the stone, and the crushed part would be replaced with the formation of a stone of remarkably lower durability. And now, Taehyun can say that Sang-do was aiming for the crushed part from the very start. However, he smiled as he was sure now that a hand-to-hand fight was still doable even against a B-ranked opponent. So his physical abilities aren't those of an average D rank after all. Should we wrap up the test now? He asked, which confused Sang-do. He then dashed towards Taehyun while saying that Taehyun had gone mad after being driven into a corner. Taehyun then said that he wanted to meet Sang-do. Sang-do just laughed at him but his eyes rounded the moment Taehyun activated his Predation skill. He said that the reason why he wants to meet Sang-do is for him to take Sang-do's stealth skill. At this time, Sang-do is dumbfounded as he feels a wicked mana and he deduces that Taehyun has been hiding this skill the whole time. Nevertheless, he evilly smiled as he was confident that Taehyun could not defeat him. He activates his stealth skill and moves around while admitting that he doesn't have any idea about this skill Taehyun had. But for him, Taehyun cannot be able to hit him knowing that it's very hard to see him with his skill. Taehyun then reminded him that he had said earlier that all skill has a weakness. He realized this after devouring monsters several times. Among those monsters, countless escaped his sight, but in the end, Predation gobbled up all of them. In short, wherever Sang-do hides, wherever he runs away, Predation will still get him no matter what. This time, he successfully hit Sang-do's face without even staring at him. By this attack, he was able to finally defeat Sang-do. It was almost morning but Hyunsu hadn't defeated the giant ogre yet. He was lying on the ground and he was so mad while saying to himself that if Sang-do didn't get him, he should not defy death. He raised his head to stare at the ogre, but then, his body was too weak to fight and he collapsed. The giant ogre roared with a clenched fist and strongly punched the ground where Hyunsu was lying. He growled angrily and removed his hand from the ground, but he was shocked upon seeing Hyunsu's body disappear. What the hell? You're totally flat on the ground, Taehyun said from behind the giant ogre. The ogre turned his head around and saw Taehyun standing behind him while carrying Hyunsu's unconscious body. No wonder, after all, it is way more comfortable, he added with a slight smile on his face. Meanwhile, the sun rises and both parents of Yeong opened the door and were worried for their son. Mon, Dad, I'm home, Yeong said while laughing. Taehyun was standing behind him. "Uncle, everything's fine, right?" he asked. But then, the elders were both crying and looked in pain. They said that they were just worried that both Taehyun and Yeung got by the monsters just because they came home and saw the house so messy. Yeung and Taehyun entered while Yeung lied that nothing had happened to their house. The next day, news appeared on the television to report that the gate break warning had been completely lifted. Considering the possibility of a subsequent outbreak, the government has ordered nearby schools to be closed for a week. And as news of survivors gradually comes in, the public is breathing a sigh of relief. The authorities who were confined in the hospital also heard about the news, and at the same time, Nurse Choi Naeun was surprised and reported to the police that she woke up and found herself in this evacuation center. "Dear citizens, I'm not the one who took down the giant ogre. The true hero is someone else," Hyunsu said to the media. However, as the giant ogre's corpse wasn't discovered, and the whereabouts of the villain who attacked the public are now unknown, people are concerned that the preventive measures for safety purposes may be insufficient. Taehyun was watching the news on his phone and he was glad that there was no mention of him about killing the giant ogre. He then smiled while standing in front of the dungeon entrance and said that he should now advance to the next stage. At this time, he's a D rank with 15 strength, 20 stamina, 15 speed, 40 mana points, 5% fatigue, and 40/40 magic left. He has now a total of 3 skills: Predations, Stone Skin, and Stealth. Acquiring Stealth for him was an especially great outcome. But at his present level, it's too hard for him to use all 3 skills, since recklessly wielding the skills could bottom out his mana in no time, and thereby raising his fatigue level. It could end up being a devastating move. The best preventive measures that he believes against this is none other than potions. Potions are elixirs created for various purposes such as mana or fatigue recovery. Since he knew that potions were very expensive, he didn't have any way but to hunt to earn money. And to hunt, he must have legal permission since using skills without legal permission is considered illegal. He was now inside the dungeon and saw gigantic monsters. But then, he wasn't scared as he was eager to explore undiscovered dungeons. When the monsters saw him, they were all talking like humans. And since Taehyun witnessed that these monsters were great at talking, he believes that these monsters are high in intelligence. As per Taehyun's system, these monsters are called Spider Sisters and are currently a B rank. For Taehyun, B rank isn't high enough to change his rank, and he even questioned himself if he needs to eat hundreds of Spider Sisters to gain experience points. While he was talking to himself, the spiders felt belittled and they said that Taehyun was an arrogant lowly human who didn't realize the situation he was in. The spider with pink hair suddenly blew something. It was a purple flame and attacked it to Taehyun while saying that they would eat Taehyun alive. They all guffaw as they believe that Taehyun will now become unable to move and be paralyzed. Surprisingly, Taehyun remained unharmed, and as per the system, due to a mysterious power, resistance succeeded. "As I predicted, you had quite the useful skill," he uttered, which confused and trembled the Spider Sisters. They were asking for mercy from Taehyun, but Taehyun killed them all inside the dungeon. Because of it, he has succeeded in complete predation, and a new skill paralysis has been registered. At the same time, in the new South Korea Player Association, 2 guards are guarding the entrance of the hall since there is a current meeting ongoing. One of them is Go Taewook, the new South Korean Player Association HR Deputy Manager. A player is awakened and is legally permitted to use their skills for various objectives such as abyss exploration, dungeon clearing, and so on. Currently, there are 5 player centers of the new South Korean Player Associations. New South Korea's largest guilds, the 4 great guilds: the Fighters, Undivided; the Crafters, Alchemists; the Mages, Magicians; the Informants, Nightwalkers; and the authorized agency that manages the players, including the 4 great guilds, the new South Korean Player Associations. And right in front of Taewook is Yu Aeong, the guild master of the Nightwalkers, and an S-rank player. The other person with them is Ji Jinhui, the chairman of the new South Korea Player Associations and also an S-rank player. He asked if both Taewook and Aeong had discovered something. Aeong then asked if he was referring to the Malignant Guild. This guild is a criminal organization formed by the most brutal felons even among villains. The guild members wear gold rings with 3 skulls carved on them. Jinhui showed information on the recent movements of the Malignant Guild along with the list of the players they were targeting. "I'm sure you didn't call me just to receive a document in person, so what is it about?" Aeong asked. Jinhui laughed and answered that he wanted Aeong's opinion on something. Aeong was confused while staring at the chairman. "Miss Aeong, when did you take the player test?" Jinhui asked. Aeong then answered that she took it when she became of qualifying age at 19 years old. She suddenly pauses when she realizes what the chairman is thinking. Do you think a high school student could rival a monster in a fight? Jinhui asked. At the same time, Taehyun already killed lots of different monsters in the dungeon. His bag was full of monster cores and he was currently calling one of the 4 great guilds, the alchemist, over the phone. He called just to tell them that he wanted to buy some potions. After a week, the 7-day school closure order from the gate break ended. During those days, Taehyun did physical training together with his cousin. He also cleared some dungeons and went to the alchemist's guild headquarters to do potion trading. The alchemists were shocked to see so many stones from Taehyun, and by this, the head even declared to treat Taehyun as an SVIP. These mana stones are the monster's core which can be utilized in crafting potions or equipment. Besides that, he finally became a C ranker and upgraded his strength, stamina, speed, fatigue, and magic. He also obtained the paralysis skill that can restrain the target's body. While he was inside his classroom, he's thinking that there was still a long way to go for him. Yet, he still has to go to school. While thinking, 3 of his classmates approached him as they heard a rumor about Taehyun beating up Hyuksu's lackeys. They were shocked to know that Taehyun is now awakened. However, they believe that Kim Taehyun is now in big trouble. While talking, 3 men were heading to their room. Taehyun noticed them, and the moment they entered, they even dared to break chairs inside. These men were staring mad at Taehyun. The leader sat down in front of Taehyun and put his foot on the table. Taehyun was just staring at them and he knew that this man would not let things slide. Been a while, old friend, the man said. He is an S-rank awakened, Lee Yoongi, the 3rd generation keyball of the Taehyun Group, the conglomerate that sponsors Taehyun High School, the boss of all the Taehyun High's bullies, as well as the main culprit who ordered Hyuksu to harass Taehyun for being unawakened. Someone like you, friend, cut the crap and back off, Taehyun said. Yoongi's subordinates were shocked to see Taehyun dare to say words against their boss Yoongi. But then, Yoongi punched his own subordinate in the face and told him that he was so disrespectful for talking while he was talking with Taehyun. He glanced back to Taehyun and said that he understood Taehyun was in high spirits after defeating Bai Hyuksu. He smiled and stood with a scary aura while adding that Taehyun should be more careful picking who to act up in front of him. Taehyun smiled as this was the first he's witnessed and an amazing aura from an S-rank awakened. You better listen while I'm being nice, Yoongi said. This time, Taehyun was preparing his hands to activate his predation skill, and he was thinking about how Yoongi would face his predation skill. All of a sudden, a lady with blue hair came and asked Yoongi to stop bullying Taehyun. She activates her magic power and while staring at her, Taehyun knows that she's Lee Ah-hyung. Kim Taehyun, you as well, enough of this, Ah-hyung added. Taehyun smiled knowing that Ah-hyung was the class president, a rich family's young lady, Yu Ah-hyung's half-sister, S-rank awakened, the model student, and the prospective first ranker next term. A noblesse oblige, and a future SS rank player. She has countless nicknames and is expected to earn even more such nicknames. The problem is that she's uncompromising and simply won't back down. The lady faced Yoongi with a clenched fist and Yoongi laughed and asked her what she meant. Stop. Someone might think I'm doing something. We're just friends having a chat, he stated. Friends? What about how you just punched him in the face? Ah-hyung answered. Yoongi then told her to watch herself. The lady forced them to leave and she warned Yoongi that she was going to use force if Yoongi and his comrades won't leave on their own. Quit it and get lost, she calmly said. Taehyun was staring at them both and saw their powerful aura. For him, these powerful awakens should stop as he believes that the whole classroom will be a total mess at this rate. Yoongi and Ah-hyung were staring at each other's eyes. Yoongi then walked away and decided to stop bullying Taehyun because of Ah-hyung. He also lied that he had no intention of fighting the lady in this school. He suddenly casts a flame and glanced back to the lady. As he was about to attack the lady, they all heard a sound from the school speaker. There was an announcement from the school's broadcasting club. It is said that a special lecture will be organized by the Players Association in the main hall, so all students are expected to assemble in the main hall immediately. It was announced twice and Yoongi became interested in it. He stared at Ah-hyung's eyes and Ah-hyung was also staring at him. Yoongi smiled and walked away while saying that Ah-hyung was just lucky this time. The lady still activates her power just in case that Yoongi will do a surprise attack. After Yoongi left the room, she asked if Taehyun was fine. She also told Taehyun that there was no need to thank her. But then, when she turned around, Taehyun disappeared. She wasn't aware that Taehyun was already at the door. What are you doing standing there? Didn't you hear the announcement to assemble in the main hall? Taehyun said. He also informed that lady that he would be going first by himself. Ah-hyung was so confused and wondered if Taehyun always acted like this. In the main hall, students were already inside and they were all clueless about the special lecture by the Player Association. They were all staring at the people on the stage and saw Taehyun introduce himself. According to Taehyun, they came for two reasons. One is to apologize for the player association's lack of response to the gate break and to provide safety training. And the second reason is to inform the students of the changes to the player tryouts for those of them in whose hands lies the future of their new South Korea Player Association. While he was speaking, Yoongi was still thinking about Taehyun as he was annoyed by the fact that Taehyun was saved by Ahyung. At the same time, Ahyung was also thinking about Taehyun and she was planning to talk to Taehyun after the lecture. While both of them are thinking about Taehyun, Taehyun is just yawning in the hall, and he wasn't bothered at all by the two. On the other hand, the students were all wondering about the player tryouts that Taehyun mentioned. They were all clueless about what these tryouts did that had to do with them. In addition, they knew that one of the qualifications was 19 years old, and some of them were below 19, so they believed that they could not participate either. You may have thought that, but of course, we're here to inform you because it is related to you now, Taehyun answered as he overheard what the students murmuring. As per Taehyun, due to the recent gate break outbreak and the steep rise in the number of monsters and dungeons, the Players Association has recognized that they are understaffed. Therefore, starting from these tryouts, they will be allowing nominations even for high school students. Some students were disappointed upon hearing it, while Taehyun smiled while listening to Taehyun state that nominees from each school will be selected based on a combination of factors such as ability assessment scores, academic record, and behavior. Taehyun believes that these were all lies. He knows that these tryouts will indeed be open to high school students, but the selection process is already underway. That is through Taehyun's skill. Has the observer eye skill and is currently activating it. This skill is able to quantify the sum total of the subject's abilities. Upon focusing, it even allows the user to view the stat window's information of the target. While observing the students, he smiled as he found out that the numbers here were far better than in the other locations, and he believes that these students will make great players. But the most shocking for him among all of the students are both Lee Yoongi with a score of 1,924 and Lim Ahyung with a score of 2,335. Nightwalkers did send him a list of recommended candidates, but he can't believe there are so many untrained awakened. He grits his teeth and plans to write up recommendations as soon as he gets back. At this moment, Yoongi raised his arm, which confused Taehyun, but then he still let Yoongi speak. You said you'd inform us about the player tryouts, but aren't some candidates here unfit for you to do that? Yoongi said. He means that play tryouts are meant to assess people suitable to be players among the awakened. In other words, he doesn't believe a mere unawakened person needs to hear this lecture. The unawakened person he was referring to was none other than Taehyun, who was just standing on the other side. As per Yoongi, strength is not all that makes a player. Whether it's the rank of awakening, the ability to handle different situations, or vast knowledge about the abyss. To become a player, a number of complex skills must be assessed. But for Yoongi, in the end, all those complexities originate from the awakened. For an unawakened, this is nothing but salt in the wounds, isn't it? He added while staring at Taehyun. Taehyun was staring at Yoongi with annoyance, thinking that Yoongi was willing to go this far to confirm whether he had awakened. Yoongi ironically smiled, and he wants Taehyun to prove himself that he really is awakened. At the same time, Ahyung was calling his name as she was annoyed that Yoongi was trying to bully Taehyun again. What are you doing? Did I ask for your help? Taehyun said, and this was not Ahyung's expectation of Taehyun's reaction, so she turned her head and decided not to care about Taehyun at all. I understand what you're saying. It's up to the student to decide if or not they want to attend the lecture. Taehyun answered. Kim Taehyun, how are you not humiliated? Not like you can get nominated as an unawakened, or you don't care about the player tryouts, Yoongi said to tease Taehyun. Taehyun remained silent, but deep down inside him, he disagreed with Yoongi. Certainly, without proving himself as awakened, he can't even get a peek at the player tryouts. But to get recommended, he doesn't necessarily have to show that himself. At this moment, Taehyun was staring at the three, and for him, Yoongi was so pathetic for bullying others despite that he's an S-rank player. He glanced at Taehyun, thinking that Taehyun was unawakened with unknown latent rank as per the student department. For him, Taehyun is a pitiful existence in the midst of awakening. He tried to check Taehyun's information, but information could not be verified. He was so puzzled why for all of the students, only Taehyun's information couldn't be verified. At this point, Taehyun spoke, saying that Yoongi was right. He admitted that he was too thoughtless. What use would it be for a lowly unawakened to attend such a lecture? It'd only hurt their pride. He added. Yoongi was confused about what he was trying to say. He then smiled and declared that he will get out himself in this hall and will never attend the player tryouts. As he was leaving, He raised his middle finger to Yoongi while telling everyone to stay locked up in this hall and attend their oh-so-great lecture. Yoongi ironically smiled, but deep inside of him, he was so annoyed seeing this kind of behavior from Taehyun. Up until this point, Taewook was still speechless after he discovered that his observer's eye didn't work on Taehyun, knowing that even with the chairman and UIL, this had never happened. Yet it didn't work for a kid like Taehyun, whom they called unawakened. Taehyun continuously walked away with both his hands in his pocket while Taewook still tried his observation eyes numerous times, but the same thing happened. Not until Taehyun glanced at him with a smile on his face while showing his powerful aura. Through this, his observation eyes finally worked on Taehyun, and he was shocked after he discovered that Taehyun's overall score was 5096. After a few hours, Taehyun was still at the library. He was reading a lot of books, but he was disturbed upon seeing shadows of 3 men on the floor. I figured I'd spend the rest of the day looking for clues about the king. Well, not like I'll find something here anyway, he uttered. The man in the middle informs him that Yoongi is looking for him, so they come to bring Taehyun with them. Taehyun slightly smiled and said that he would not come with these men. The man in the middle mentioned that Taehyun's aunt runs a restaurant. Taehyun was shocked upon hearing it, and he asked what they meant to say. Yoongi wanted me to tell you this, you're a pathetic orphan. Do you want to give your aunt a hard time when she's already struggling? The man stated. He possessed his power while saying that the 3 of them would still drag Taehyun to Yoongi either way. But then, before they could get Taehyun, the library was suddenly destroyed because Taehyun started hitting them. The books were scattered around and the man was coughing while spitting blood. Taehyun also strangled him and lifted him up while his men were unconscious and now lying on the ground. Don't make me ask you twice. Where that bastard, Lee Yoongi? Taehyun asked. After a while, Taehyun went to the area where Yoongi waited for him. He bravely faced Yoongi, and Yoongi was together with his bodyguard. His bodyguard activates a power, but then he notices something strange. He is a rank player, Seol Hundo. He said that after Taehyun came, he has been casting a couple of status effect skills, but it isn't working at all. With such great resistance, he concludes that Taehyun probably in a rank awakened. Upon hearing it, Yoongi was not frightened, and he was glad that he now confirmed that Taehyun had really awakened. In that case, shall we have a chat with our friend here? He added, but Taehyun remained silent. As per Yoongi, his words may have been crude, but he has no intention of hurting Taehyun. What he wants is to scout him. According to him, he's going to form a guild after he graduates as the heir to the Taehyun group, and he claimed that a genius like him can't do anything on his own. You get what I meant? He asked, but Taehyun still didn't respond. Yoongi went directly to the point. He said that he wants human talent, not some bum like Bai Hyuksu, but real talented people. He pointed his finger at Taehyun and declared that the talented person he was referring to was the current Kim Taehyun. He guffaws while asking Taehyun to forget his old grudges and come work for him. If Taehyun would, he would not only give wealth and honor to Taehyun, but would also make sure to get Taehyun's family out of their poor lives. This time, Taehyun cut Yoongi's words. He possessed his stone skin skill while saying that Yoongi had crossed the line. Yoongi was speechless while staring at Taehyun's scary aura. He then downed his head and suddenly possessed his power while saying that dogs have to be trained. He cast his rune skill on the ground, a binding skill that envelops a space in magic. Outsiders can't detect the magic inside. The barrier was covered in the hall, and as per Hundo, with this skill, no one outside will find out about his master's fight against Taehyun. Now, let's enjoy the scene, shall we? He uttered while staring at both Taehyun and Yoongi starting the match. They were punching against each other using their skills. The moment their fists collide, a strong force is made. Taehyun was struggling, and when they let go of each fist, Yoongi swung his leg and hit Taehyun. Taehyun fell to the ground and vomited lots of blood. Yoongi at the same time laughed at him and asked if he now finally see where he stood. A flame was already powerful, and seeing these makes Hundo feel sorry for Taehyun's situation. He believes that Taehyun is probably a high-grade body-strengthening skill user and a rank awakened. With combat skills and mental power he wouldn't expect from a student, he concludes that it's hard for Taehyun to find a reasonable opponent. He was focusing on the match and witnessed how Taehyun struggled to fight with his master Yoongi. Knowing that Yoongi is the epitome of intelligence S rank, he was sure that Kim Taehyun has no chance of winning. As he was staring at the match, he wanted to advise Taehyun to just give up and better learn his place. All of a sudden, he noticed something that surprised him. While Yoongi was punching Taehyun, Taehyun managed to block and punch back. In the end, he was able to punch Yoongi's face using his stone skin, and Yoongi fell on the ground. Hondo was dumbfounded knowing that Yoongi was overpowered in a close combat fight, but now was almost defeated by Taehyun. Damn it, Kim Taehyun, you bastard. What the hell did you do? Yoongi screamed. He is also rattled when he feels that he cannot move his body. Hondo was staring at him and he couldn't believe that Yoongi couldn't really move. Now, he can say that Taehyun's skill wasn't only body strengthening. While staring at Taehyun, he was wondering what Taehyun did to his young master. Taehyun at the same time smiled as he was glad to see that his paralysis skill worked. Taehyun acquired a total of 3 skills through Predation. First is the stone skin he got from Hyuksu, the second skill is the stealth he got from Sangdo, and the newest skill that he just used against Yoongi, the paralysis. Taehyun didn't utilize all of his skills from the start, though. C-rank paralysis can't easily piece through S-rank resistance, and stealth immediately disarms far-reaching fire attacks. Predation is a last resort and shouldn't be used lightly, so Taehyun's objective was accumulation of paralysis in close combat. Status effect skills have a great effect when dealt in direct blows rather than from a distance. So with damage dealt by continuous blows of paralysis, even with the high S-rank resistance, he has failed at resisting paralysis. He was standing still in front of Yoongi while Hondo was jaw-dropping while staring at him and claimed that Taehyun was indeed a genius for surpassing Yoongi in a head-on battle. Yoongi was still paralyzed. He started to speak and said that he admitted the fact that he underestimated Taehyun too much. He was holding a stone and crushed it to pieces. Taehyun was staring at it in confusion as he was clueless about this stone. After crushing a stone, a flaming gigantic skeleton appeared. By this time, Yoongi was able to stand and said that he shall now fight Taehyun seriously as well. This skeleton swung its fist and was about to punch Taehyun. Taehyun immediately ran away as fast as he could. He then jumped above while clenching his fist and he was staring angrily at the flaming skeleton, planning to punch it. But then, the skeleton blows a flame and Taehyun ends up hitting it. His stone skin was in flame and suddenly shattered to pieces. It exploded and Taehyun flew away and slammed on the ground. Hondo witnessed what just happened and he said that this skill of Yoongi is called Flame Heart S-rank, which he believes is the true form of Yoongi's skill. According to him, it would usually be difficult to draw out Yoongi's true powers at S-rank. However, just now, Yoongi used a mana exemplifying stone, created by refining the mana stone, which is the monster's core. It temporarily amplifies the mana. With that stone, the present Yoongi can also draw out his true S-rank powers. But seeing this power makes Hondo panicked as he knows that this will have consequences. Young master, you gotta stop now. Are you planning to kill him? He said. He also reminded Yoongi that this magic power Yoongi was using was still too much for him to handle. In addition, he knew that the blood vessels in Yoongi's body might burst from the surge of magic. While he was talking, Yoongi suddenly aimed at him with a flame-like spear. The area where he stood exploded, but lucky for him he was able to jump away. Shut up. How dare a lowly bodyguard like you order me around? Yoongi angrily said. He said that he didn't want to let Taehyun go as he felt humiliated. Taehyun at the same time was coughing and slowly stood. He was staring at Yoongi and he felt that Yoongi was now at his full power. The flaming skeleton attacked Taehyun again and Yoongi guffawed as he was expecting Taehyun to die from his hands. His guard Hondo senses that Jangdi is not on his mind right now and he is afraid that Yoongi can't hold these consequences. At this time, he went to the area where Taehyun was dropped and he was trying to wake Taehyun up. He suggested that Taehyun give up the fight and just run away. I'll stop the young master somehow, so quickly ran, he said while trying to pull Taehyun out. Unfortunately, Yoongi sees him and instantly punches his face, causing Hondo to fly away. Luckily, Taehyun managed to stand. Run away. What are you yapping about after picking a fight yourself? He uttered. While walking, he also admitted that an S rank is truly different. Since Taehyun had lots of elixirs, he used some to restore his fatigue, stamina, and mana. From now on, I'm also going to be serious about this, he added while possessing his predation skill and was surrounded by a scary aura. At the South Korea Player Association, Taehyun came back and reported himself to the chairman. After knowing that there were students with 1,900 and 2,300 scores, he was surprised as he couldn't believe it. Taehyun then said that he wasn't lying at all. The ladies inside also checked the information of both players and didn't doubt why both were an S-rank awakened. That's already at the level of an A-rank player. At this rate, isn't he at the level of Japan's Saintess? The other lady uttered. They were also laughing while saying that they are now finally getting a Saintess rank player in New South Korea. Taehyun was just silent while listening to them. The Saintess that the ladies mentioned is one of the leading players in Japan. A monster whose stats surpassed 2,500 scores already at the first inspection at the age of 19. Even in the case of that monster, she barely surpassed the 2,500 score. And Taehyun wondered about what on earth is the deal with Taehyun's stats. He was thinking that it might be a simple hallucination or a skill error. He comes out from the chairman's room and he decides to check it himself. Going back to the battle between Taehyun and Yoongi, Hundo was dumbfounded after seeing a scary aura of Taehyun. He was staring up above and he couldn't believe how Taehyun managed to almost defeat Yoongi's monster. The flaming skeleton was screaming in agony, and at the same time, Yoongi couldn't believe what was happening. How am I being overpowered by a scumbag like Kim Taehyun? I'm the heir of the Taehyun group. I'm an S-ranker, he angrily said. He screamed his name, but in the end, his flaming skeleton was burned by his own flame because of Taehyun's predation skill. No matter whose heir or what rank you have, what the hell does it matter? Taehyun said. He ironically smiled while his eyes blazing. Yoongi was staring up above and he was startled to see someone's face. He then heard Taehyun declare that he had the king's power. Sharp edges heading towards Yoongi. He panicked and tried to get away, but he could not move his body. In the end, he was hit by Taehyun's predation skill. The peaceful school becomes loud the moment the hall explodes after defeating Yoongi. The gym was destroyed and the surroundings were flaming. Yoongi was knocked out and was lying on the ground. His guard Hundo was trembling and nervous while staring at Taehyun standing in front of him. Well, this is a surprise, Taehyun uttered. He was staring at Hundo and he knew that Hundo dragged Lee Yoongi out in the middle of predation taking effect, which he didn't expect to happen. Fortunately, it doesn't matter to him at all since he has already acquired the skill. What do you plan on doing now? The young master is the heir of the Taehyun. How are Young going to deal with the aftermath? Hundo asked. Look at you. Who's the one that picked the fight? Aren't you acting shameless? Also, do I look like I'd cower from a threat like that? Taehyun answered. He also told Hundo not to worry as he didn't have any plans of killing Yoongi. In return for not killing Yoongi even if he can, he wants to get a reward. Hundo was confused, so Taehyun reminded him that Yoongi was the heir of the Taehyun group after all. He slightly smiled and declared that he should get at least 1,000,000,000 for not killing Lee Yoongi. After the explosion happened, everyone came out of their rooms and gathered outside. Students felt nervous thinking that they were being attacked by some villain or a monster. But then, Ah-hyung wouldn't believe their conclusion as she didn't doubt the feel of the magic and the fierce flames belonging to Lee Yoongi's power. She wondered who the one that Yoongi was fighting with, but it recalled in her mind that Yoongi was bullying Taehyun so much. She imagines that Yoongi was attacking Taehyun with his flame while Taehyun was screaming for help. The teacher asked them all to just stay and wait for further instruction. But then, Ah-hyung suddenly ran without asking for permission. The teacher was calling her name, but she didn't listen at all as she was worried for Taehyun. While running, she told herself that she shouldn't have been a simple bystander in the gym just now. She was blaming herself while thinking that Taehyun was now in danger. Taehyun, please, I beg you, make it out alive, she uttered while running as fast as she could. But then, when she arrived, she saw Yoongi lying on the ground and was unconscious while bleeding. She also witnessed Taehyun still fine and alive. You came right on time. I just happened to need a witness, someone to help move him, Taehyun said. Ah-hyung was stuttering as she was surprised at what she saw. She couldn't believe that Taehyun was able to defeat Yoongi. Taehyun instructed her to take Yoongi to the nurse's office, or rather to the hospital. But then, the lady was hesitant to follow since she wanted to know what exactly happened. She grabbed Yoongi's body while waiting for Taehyun's answer. But then, Taehyun said that Yoongi must have fallen down the stairs to be knocked out like this. Ah-hyung didn't want to believe it since Yoongi looked like in severe pain. While she was staring at Yoongi, she heard Taehyun casually say that what happened to Yoongi had nothing to do with him, so he wanted Ah-hyung to handle it herself. And he doesn't want Ah-hyung to go around saying she saw Taehyun here. He then left while the lady asked her to explain properly, so at least she really had an idea what exactly happened. But then, Taehyun didn't bother to come back and explain everything to her. She was surprised after witnessing how Taehyun vanished in an instant. Taehyun teleported far away from the school, but he was still able to see the smoke from afar. Great. Lim Ah-hyung will handle Lee Yoongi somehow. The Taehyun group took action on their part too, so I guess it's settled now, he uttered. He checked his status window, and how now a C-rank player with another new C-rank skill, the Monarch's Heart. It boosts party members' stats and costs 10 mana points. He also gained 5 points charm, and he concludes that it is an appearance stat for celebrities. Because of this charm, he was wondering how he got it after preying on Lee Yoongi. Also, he confirms that the skill he got from Yoongi isn't the Flame Heart skill, but the Monarch's Heart. He could not believe that Yoongi had a skill like this, and he smiled as he was more satisfied that he got this skill instead. Skills that affect the entire party are rare, regardless of rank. As someone like him who will be using multiple skills, the Monarch's Heart, which allows any skill whatsoever to be combined, is way better. He was so amazed that he got this skill. He walked and was startled when he saw cars flashing him and stopped in front of him. His eyes rounded and he was wondering about who these people were. "Finally found you, Kim Taehyun," the man said while walking towards Taehyun. As expected, he's Taewook. He said that he had a lot of questions for Taehyun and would start with the most important one. Taehyun was staring at him in confusion as he couldn't think of any reason why Taewook had come to him right now. "What did you do in the gym earlier today?" Taewook asked with a powerful aura. On the other hand, Hundo arrives at the Lee mansion and reports to the family head about what happened to Yoongi. Yoongi was holding a glass of wine while saying that his one and only son was in the hospital, and as if that wasn't enough, Taehyun asked for $1 billion for his son's life. In addition, he believes that Taehyun wants the whole matter dealt with quietly, which annoys him. While he was talking, his ferocious dogs were so loud, barking together. Hundo was kneeling on the ground while his body was shaking in fear. He apologizes to Yoongi's father and says that he doesn't have anything to say. To his surprise, Yoongi's father told him to do what Taehyun wanted. "He's quite the gutsy guy." "Interesting," the Lee family head said and chuckled. He pointed his finger at Hundo and told Hundo that there must be a worthy reward for the price they paid. Hundo was terrified upon seeing people in front of him, and he knew that the Lee family head wanted to kill Taehyun. The opponent is still a young kid. That'd be far too cruel. He screamed, "Enough. I will not tolerate a barking dog." The Lee family head answered with a scary aura. He's Lee Young-soo, an S-rank player and the president of the Taehyun group. Going back to Taehyun, he was just silent while thinking if Taewook was referring to the explosion that happened in the gym or about the incident in the lecture hall. At the rank of the association's deputy manager, the chances of Taewook meddling himself over a fire are small, but he thinks that Taewook might appear in front of him knowing that he was behind the explosion. He smiled as he decided to test Taewook instead of telling the truth. "By the gym, do you mean the explosion?" he asked. But then, Taewook doesn't have any idea that there's an explosion happening at the school gymnasium. He glanced at the smoke and told Taehyun not to worry as he was sure that other agencies would take care of the fire. He glanced back at Taehyun and stated that Taehyun hadn't given him an answer yet. This time, Taehyun confirmed that Taewook was not referring to the explosion. Taewook asked the same question one more time, and Taehyun smiled and asked, "Don't you know already? You must have come here to give me an invitation to the player tryouts." Taewook laughed and asked him what grounds would he say it. Taehyun suddenly activated his power and asked if this was already enough. Since he has activated his power, Taewook has seen his points again, which is 5,214 at this moment. Taewook and his people were dumbfounded to witness Taehyun's power. Taewook couldn't believe that Taehyun was now stronger than earlier. In addition, he confirmed that the numbers he saw at the gym earlier weren't a coincidence or an error after all. He was staring at Kim Taehyun and he was interested to know about Taehyun's real identity. "By the way, what on earth happened to your clothes?" he asked, which made Taehyun stuttered. After Taehyun went home, he told Yeung about the player tryouts, and Yeung could not believe that Taehyun would dare to join this competition. Taehyun was currently doing physical training and informed Yeung that the tryout would be in a month. Yeung was jaw-dropping and suddenly bowed down in front of his cousin Taehyun. As expected of the King God General Emperor Admiral Yesun Sin Majesty, the great Kim Taehyun Hyungnam, he uttered. Taehyun was thinking about the Taehyun group, which he believed would be the one to take good care of the gym matter, and that would decrease Go Taewook's suspicions. Since the tryouts are in a month later, he decided to focus solely on training. He thought that he would not face any problems, not until someone called him over the phone.
His phone kept ringing while unbeknownst to him, 2 men had been surveilling his house. A man covered with white bandage choked a bodyguard while asking for the reason why the house is being protected by Players Association. He commented that it's annoying. The other man, who was wearing black overalls, speculated that it might be because the guy is one of those participants in the player test, and the Players Association cares for their participants like crazy. These men are assassins, and they are called the Black and White Brothers. Black, a class demon brother, has the skills stealth and physical enhancement, while the other guy, White, is a Class B demon brother with a stealth skill. He answered that even if the guy is a participant, he's still just a kid with little experience. So Black answered and settled that maybe it's because the kid is a promising player. But in the end, if they lack experience, it's useless. He told his brother that they will show the kid what the real awakening is. His brother yelled loudly, and he saw that his brother was being choked and punched by Taehyun. Black asked who that bastard was. Taehyun then threw White on the ground. Black was caught off guard when Taehyun's knee met his face that caused his blood to spill. Taehyun told him that He's the inexperienced kid they were talking about earlier. A few hours ago, when the gym was burning, Seo Hundu couldn't believe that Taehyun asked for $1 billion. He explained that even if he kept quiet about the incident, it won't just be him to decide for it. Taehyun told him that he knew that. He expressed that he's not that bad at holding people accountable. He explained that he's just asking him to do his best to come to an agreement, and Taehyun took a precaution just in case Seo Hundu would betray him. He suggested that they would make an oath. The awakened oath is a contract method created by awakened people using magical power. In case of violation, a permanent random penalty is given. The conditions are simple. Kim Taehyun explained that along with the $1 billion compensation he asked earlier, he asked Seo Hundu to do his best to resolve the incident. Seo Hundu abided by that. When the news reported that the cause of the explosion was a gas explosion and there were no victims. And there's another thing that Taehyun asked. The phone call earlier was from Seo Hundu, and in the call, Seo Hundu told him that since according to the oath of the awakened, he will give him information about the assassins. That was the second condition. To notify in advance in any case of retaliation. So back to the present time, Black prepared his blade for a counterattack. Taehyun effortlessly evaded all his attacks, and with a serious expression on his face, he prepared for a counterattack. He released his attack, but there was no one in front of him. With 2 blades on each of his hands, Black appeared behind Taehyun, and he launched his attack that made the ground shatter. Taehyun addressed the Black and White brothers. He told them that he heard that they're good at stealth. But just as he expected, there's nothing special about them. He appeared behind the crouched Black and stepped on his head. And with a devilish expression, he told Black, "You can't do anything else." Meanwhile, on the busy highway, Yoo Young is on board in one of the cars. She's talking to somebody on her phone. She told the person on the line that she heard that the screening part is over. The person answered that it will bring promising players from all over the country. She asked this person, the president, who he is looking forward to. She asked if it was Bizen's S-class, Shin Yun-bok. The president answered that it's not. He acknowledged that the guy was great, but he has someone else in mind. And he told her that he's looking forward to Yoo Young's sister. Yoo Young seemed disappointed as she commented that he can't even use that family that much. Ji Jinwei laughed and remarked that Yoo Young is still picky. He asked her who she was looking forward to, and if it's the kid named Shin Yun-bok. She answered that it was him until she heard an interesting story. That made Ji Jinwei curious. She narrated that aside from other S-class, she heard that there was a child that Deputy Manager Go Taewook personally contacted. Ji Jinwei was surprised to hear about Taewook. Yoo Young asked him if he's not curious on what kind of skill level is that awakened person to make Deputy Manager Taewook personally step forward. Kim Taehyun defeated the Black and White brothers, but he was anxious to see his hand. He wondered why it was happening again. A window notified him that he lacks physical ability, and because of that, Predator is not available due to overload. At night, in a peaceful neighborhood, the Black and White brothers were unconscious and tied up side by side. Kim Taehyun and Go Taewook observed from afar while the bodyguards watched over the Black and White brothers. One guard spoke how daring these brothers are for meddling with association players and even dared to harass a high school participant. The other guard added that the bastards are getting braver. Taewook thanked Taehyun for informing them. He inquired if he has any clue on who's behind the attack. Taehyun stared at him and replied that he doesn't know. Taewook entertained the idea that the list of participants has been leaked. He planned to request additional guards for the others. In his mind, Taehyun thought that it's best not to tell them about the Taehyun groups, since instead of it being properly dealt with, it would only give him more problems. And the most important to him right now is not the Taehyun group, but the fact that he was notified that his physical ability is not sufficient and therefore predation skill is not available due to overload. He wondered what curse skill is that lack of physical abilities to the point where he couldn't use his skills. He thought that it might mean that he has to increase his stats. but he has no idea how to improve his stats since increasing levels by hunting monsters requires predation. This is also the same if he would hunt awakened humans. Taehyun tried thinking what he could do next. One idea came to his mind, but this was really not the ideal way, but he had no other choice. Inside the Blackhead building, their logo looked funny because it's a black round ball with eyes and gigantic nose and skinny arms and legs. A girl named Yura welcomed the customers. She is a guide at Blackhead's main training center in New Korea. With a smile and a cute posture, she asked how she could serve the customers. Taehyun and Hwang Jae-young entered. Jae-young couldn't believe Taehyun planned to register in Blackhead where both money and skills are valued. When Yura saw them, she thought they're just a bunch of kids. She called them kids and told them that it's not an ordinary training place. Taehyun gave her his black card and informed her that the two of them are signing up. She saw that the card was SUVIP, and she was surprised. Taehyun asked to confirm if that's enough verification. She couldn't believe that it's the alchemist's SUVIP card. She wondered why those kids have that. She thought that they could be kids of a high-ranking player. Or maybe they're players themselves, but she knew that accepting them easily could bring some problems. She wondered what she should do. In perfect time, a man who's showing off his muscles said that Yura is in a dilemma. And then this man told the kids that their place is not a place that they could just simply enter through the use of money. That man is a B-rank coach called Iron Strongman. He is a Blackhead member and known to be a rookie killer. His skill was muscle augmentation, and one of his traits was that he renamed himself. Jae-young was impressed with that man's name. He asked his older brother what they should do. But for Taehyun, it was a strange name, and he thought that maybe that man is stressed. Other members saw their interaction and gossiped among themselves. They pity the newbies for being approached and falling into the hands of Iron Strongman. Iron Strongman, still showing off his muscles on his half-naked body, asked the kids if they saw how people screamed when they heard his name. So, he suggested that it's better for the kids to leave, but he was cut off mid-sentence when Taehyun asked him what he's talking about, when those people are just weaklings. That made Iron Strongman's eyes sharpen and gave him a serious look as he asked, "What?" Jae-young and Yura were surprised at what they heard. Iron Strongman asked if Taehyun is saying that he is stronger than him. Taehyun told him that it's up to him on how to interpret that, and if he doesn't trust him, they should just make a bet, and the loser will pay a year's membership fee. This provoked Iron Strongman, making him laugh out loud. He called Taehyun ignorant and suggested they should begin. They entered a new world where their bodies became pixelated. This new world was filled with monsters. Iron Strongman challenged Kim Taehyun to prove his worth. It's akin to a video game. They're seated, wearing headgear, while people watch their journey in the new world on a big screen. Hwang Jae-young recognized that the location is the Abyss. Yura explained that they are using a virtual training program called Virtual Porter. Virtual Porter sends the player to a virtual reality similar to the Abyss, and one has to carry a heavy load, defeat B-rank monsters, and reach the goal in the short time in the training competition. It is a common method used in training centers for ranking, but they find it very unfair when Kim Taehyun goes up against Iron Strongman. This one laughed out loud as he thought that he would surely win this fight. Iron Strongman yelled that a young man dared to bet against him, especially when his skill of muscle augmentation is unmatched in a fight, and also in movement. He bragged that his skills don't have any defect in Virtual Porter. On top of that, his lift is on a much different level, and he assumed that he would win and get to train for a year for free. But then, a bright light caught his attention. Taehyun moves so fast that only a trail of light can be seen, and the surrounding monsters are instantly defeated. He continued forward despite the monsters blocking his way. In just one big movement, he defeated most of them. He attacked them with a powerful kick. The monsters didn't even have time to counterattack. He immediately finished them off. Taehyun is feeling confident. He continued to attack the rest of the monsters that seemed like they're just waiting for him. And with that, he reached a 999 combo. Iron Strongman couldn't believe it. Taehyun told him that he only planned to attend for 30 days. With the heavy weight on his back, he admitted that it was a pretty tough workout. The onlookers were shocked while Hwang Jae-young stood with pride as he stood there holding a banner that said, "I believed in you." Taehyun faced Iron Strongman, who was far behind him, and told him that he won the bet. He added that he should pay up and get lost. 30 days have passed since the announcement of the changes to the player exams. The day that has been long awaited has finally arrived, the player license test. The host abode the helicopter as she announced that the Players Association has made a change by allowing minors to participate through recommendations. Participants of various ages from all around the country have gathered in the association exam hall. The famous awakeners are known as unmatched in close-range fights, such as Iron Fist or Hong Jung-wook, an A-ranker. There is also Druid or Lee Gilsan, an A-ranker that has an incredible battle sense that makes S-grade afraid of him. The famous unmatched in Bizan called the Thunder God, Shin Yeon-bok. A grade SE is also present. A girl rumored to have the highest recorded merit among candidates for the exam is a Saintus-level prospect named Lim Ah-young, an S rank, and there are other uncountable talents scheduled to participate in the test. A girl is out of breath and complaining that the location is very far. She knew that if she failed to report, she would be fired. She is a new Sci-economics journalist called Reporter Kim Ji-ja. Her skill is typing and her purpose is interviewing and taking photos of exam candidates. She's way behind the line, and she knew that because of that, she won't be able to interview candidates and take pictures. She complained that being in grade E is useless. Taehyun is walking behind her. She turned to him when she heard him cursing and complained that there were so many people. He complained loudly that with that kind of crowd, the test taker couldn't enter. Reporter Kim Ji-ja clearly heard the words test taker. She looked at him while he's being stressed because of the crowd. He uttered how much it sucks. She recognized him as one of the candidates. She approached him to ask if she could interview him. From a bird's eye view, people were like ants around the association hall. Kim Taehyun is being called by the staff since the test is going to start in a few minutes. He explained that he was almost late because he had a sudden interview. He told her that he will be right there and he planned to build his image from the start. There were lots of examinees, and they all had a badge with their number. They looked around, and they were surprised. Even A-young is shocked. Taehyun noticed her staring at him. A-young did not expect him to be there. Taehyun was also shocked to bump into her and addressed her as the class president. She asked him what happened to his body, and he explained that it was because of the bit of training that he had. Ah-young doubted what he said. She knew that he had awakened, but not like this. Especially that Taehyun changed so much in just 1 month. Then she proceeded to ask what happened to Lee Jung-jae last time. But her question was not answered as they were interrupted when they heard an announcement. The person addressed all of them as the young heroes who bear the future of the new South Korea, and congratulated them for being there. The person speaking is displayed on multiple screens. He told everyone that they are in the first trial place for those who aspire to become players, and he informed them that he will be explaining the rules. He instructed them to look at their chest since there should be a number on their trial card. In the first trial, they are asked to collect 5 cards including theirs, which means if they don't have any card, they are out. That first trial is called the exam ticket scramble. They have a time limit of 1 hour, and every method is allowed except murder. The players were surprised by a sudden shift in the room when the whole layout had changed, and with that, the man announced the start of the first trial. Examinees were running around and adjusting to the new layout of the room since there are only a few platforms that are separated from one another. Lee Ma-hyung is alone on a single platform, and the examinees saw her and several of them rushed towards her. One of them suggested that if they don't want to be targeted, they should attack her first. But A-young remained calm and serious as she released her power. And then she makes a large ice crystal that makes the other examinees scream. The staff of the association watched them. One man commented that Liam Young is truly a promising Saintus-level candidate since she has a very impressive capability. He also noticed that other candidates cannot be underestimated since their respective abilities surpassed those of the previous examinees. Another man commented that one noteworthy candidate is Thunder God, an S-rank from Busa, Shin Yeonbok. 20 minutes has passed since the trial started, and there is not a single attack or method that worked effectively against him. The staff were truly amazed with their abilities, especially with Shin Yeonbok and Lim Ah-hyun, who are far more superior than others. But this guy was busy looking at someone else. Go Taehyun witnessed how the other staff was amazed. He thought that it's natural for Yeonbok and Lim Ah-hyun to attract attention since their ranking is high. But to him, who had seen it all, he knew there was an unbelievable stat from Taehyun. So he trusted that he could dominate the trial easily. He silently rooted for Taehyun. He wished for him to show them what he got. He watched Taehyun engaging in a fistfight. This caught him off guard. He was a bit surprised and in panic. He screamed what the hell was happening. Kim Taehyun is up against an A-ranker called Hong Jong-wook, who is using his Iron Skin skill, and Taehyun is using his Stone Skin skill. Taewook panicked and wondered if he had overrated Kim Taehyun's abilities since he is being overpowered by someone who is only at a rank. More so, Taehyun has not even avoided a single attack. But that made Taewook think twice. He considered that it was intentional. Taehyun advanced toward Jong-wook with a smile. He was met with a powerful punch from Jong-wook. Jong-wook was pissed off and asked if he's doing that to mock him. He yelled that Stone Skin is way lower than Iron Skin. He asked him how he could just face him head-on and deliberately suffer a meaningless attack. But Jong-wook's face paled as he heard Taehyun comment that he talked too much. Taehyun answered that's exactly why there's a meaning to it. A notification showed that Taehyun has increased 1 stamina and 2 charms. It had been a month of practice, but the seal of Predation remained integrated, and he took that as being less capable. And the best way he thought to improve his skills through training is to stimulate the body until it reaches maximum capacity. It means that fighting even when one almost reaches his limits can also be called the best training method. So, he continued to fight Jong-wook. They exchanged punches, and Taehyun was stubborn to continue with his so-called training. He seems to be thrilled despite his injuries. The iron on Jong-wook's face disintegrated, and he called Kim Taehyun a damn monster. A few moments later, he fell to the ground and stayed there. Taehyun won their fight and retrieved Jong-wook's card. Now he owns 2 trial cards. Taewook witnessed that and laughed out loud. He commented that it's truly abnormal. The staff noticed him and commented that he seemed so happy, and they thought it was because the candidates are truly promising. He recognized the intense training that Taehyun did during the survival game. He uttered that he is truly unbelievable. Our MC's boldness even sent chills to his spine. However, there's still a problem with doing this. Even if he did that to improve his skills earlier, the fight had consumed too much stamina. In Taewook's mind, Taehyun should save stamina for now by collecting cards from weaker participants is the best strategy. But unexpectedly, it did not go that way. He was shocked by what he saw. The staff were also confused on how this C rank can challenge someone stronger than him. They speculated that this candidate wants to give up. Taehyun stood on the platform while the other guy confidently faced him. It was Yeonbok. He asked him who he was. Currently, Yeonbok has already accumulated 147 cards. Taehyun didn't answer Yeonbok's question and asked him how many tickets he has. Our MC even tried to count them but gave up halfway. He grinned and uttered that as long as Yeonbok has more than 5, then it's fine. Their fight had started. It caused a massive explosion. Taehyun barely evades Yeonbok's thunder. Yeonbok continuously rained thunder on him, to which made Taehyun focused on running and evading, until he decided to cover his foot with stone. And when he found the opportunity, he went to attack Yeonbok with a powerful kick, but his foot was blocked by thunder. Yeonbok commented that Taehyun is incredibly fast. and his fast movements made it difficult for Yeonbok to see the attacks. Their fight continued. Taehyun kept a bit of distance from Yeonbok. He observed the Bison's S-ranker, Thunder God, and he admitted to himself that he's a bit difficult to deal with. Yeonbok is covered with lightning and he blocked all of his attacks. In addition to that, Yeonbok is able to fight at close and long range with his radiant and destructive power. Taehyun wondered, in the situation that he can't use Predation, how is he going to break him? Yeonbok noticed that he had stopped moving and asked why he didn't attack. Yeonbok taunted him to come at him, but Taehyun was caught off guard. Yeonbok went for him instead. He barely dodged Yeonbok's fist covered with lightning. But Yeonbok did not stop there. He used his hand again to attack, and Taehyun tried to keep a distance from him. Shin Yeonbok laughed as if he was excited to catch his prey. As he released a powerful thunder towards Taehyun, he asked him if he thought that he could run away from him. The attack electrified Taehyun, which made him scream loudly in pain. Yeonbok was elated and mocked him that since he's asking for a fight, he shouldn't run away. Taehyun groaned as he tried to protect himself by covering his body with stones. He made a huge stone on his hand and yelled as he prepared for a counterattack. Yeonbok broke that stone while calling him a moron. And then Yeonbok released a blinding light. That made Taehyun close his eyes. And when he opened it, he saw Yeonbok coming right at him while he's falling from the platform. And the Thunder God's hand was already charged. He was surprised at what he saw, because Yeonbok released full power in his direction. Taehyun groaned in pain as the thunder covered his whole body. Yeonbok laughed at him. He was impressed that Taehyun could take that attack. Yeonbok never thought that there would be a person like him. All those times, everyone was busy running away from him. He thought that in the player trial, only Lim Ah-hyung could entertain him. But to his surprise, there's another one. He was elated to have found another toy. Because of his distraction, he didn't realize that something was coming at him at full speed, and it hit him directly at the center of his forehead. He was confused for a moment, and he looked at Taehyun while wondering what happened, because he expected that Taehyun's attack wouldn't work against him. And then he was caught off guard with another consecutive attack that hit him in all sides of his body. He groaned in pain. Stone skin can't penetrate the Thunder God's fury, even if it is forced until it reaches its limits. It can only be broken due to incredible pressure. But in that place, the player trials arena, it's different. Because the arena is made to withstand even awakened strength, and unlike stone skin, it does not disappear even if it is destroyed. So, Taehyun thought of using it as a weapon, with the hopes that he could just break through the Thunder God's fury. He approached Yeonbok with a knowing grin. Yeonbok was pissed off and called him a cowardly bastard. And Taehyun's fist directly hit Yeonbok's chest. That made Yeonbok's eyes roll back. To Taehyun, Yeonbok is nothing to him. Shin Yeonbok coughed up blood. Taehyun was smiling. The staff couldn't see clearly because of the smoke, but they couldn't believe that an S-class lost against C-class. They wondered what kind of person Taehyun is. In his mind, Taewook remarked how Taehyun makes people worry, but he's still a pretty great guy for him. But then again, he was confused with Taehyun's actions. Taehyun collected 3 trial cards from Yeonbok, and he declared that all that was left for him to do is to wait for the test to finish. All of a sudden, an ice shard appeared. It directly attacked him. It broke the platform on where Yeonbok's body was lying. Taehyun was surprised at what he saw. He looked at the sky and there was a giant snowflake, and an orb of ice is starting to form around the platform. He watched as the ice completely covered the area. It was like a barrier, and from the giant snowflake, ice shards appeared, and several more snowflakes formed around the orb of ice. Then Lim Ah-hyung showed up. She walked towards him in that enclosed area. Taehyun was dumbfounded, while Ah-hyung looked so serious. He wondered why Ah-hyung was there, and he wondered if she watched his fight. Ah-hyung expressed that she believes power has responsibility, and power without responsibility is just violence. She told Taehyun that he is really strong. She never thought that he could beat Yeonbok like that. Taehyun is still confused about what she is saying. With an intimidating expression, Ah-young assumed that he defeated Lee Jung-jae the same way. A look of horror washed over Taehyun's face. Ah-young started attacking him. She prepared several snowflakes above her head, and it rained ice. Taehyun ran and cursed from his annoyance that the ice is like a bomb. And if it continued, he knew hiding would be useless. He didn't sense that Ah-young was already in front of him. She kicked him and it hit him directly on the face. He was shocked and was not able to dodge the attacks. Ah-young told him that during that time in the gym, she believed in him, that he's a different person than Lee Jung-jae, that he will not act rashly just for his own benefit. She continued to beat him up. She prepared ice on her fist. She told him that just by watching him fight, she already understood that there's an end to both Lee Jung-jae and Bae Hyung-soo, and that was all his doing. She hit him with a large ice shard that threw his body off the ground. When the ice shard disintegrated, his body immediately fell to the ground and collided with an impact. Ah-young reminded him that using skills without permission is a crime, and both of his victims are still lying in the hospital. And she informed him that she knew that he also suffered, so she would not report it. But she advised him to withdraw from the player trial, and told him that he doesn't deserve to be a player. Taehyun replied, "Who the fuck are you to decide that?" He slowly stood up and told her that she can't even stop the cruelty of Lee Jung-jae. So what the hell is she talking about? Power, responsibility, and qualification. He added that in the end, she just wants to beat him up by using player trials as her reason. He told her, "Don't be pathetic." Ah-young was dumbfounded, and she confirmed if that's really going to be his answer. With that, she announced that she would no longer hold back. She made a gigantic hammer out of ice. This right here was her most powerful skill, and with a serious expression on her face, she declared, "I'll end it now. Kim Taehyun." Taehyun observed her. His expression was now more serious. The stone skin had been destroyed 100 of times and has long lost its function. And he knew that even if he uses stealth, the skill will be cancelled with the attack area. The monarch's heart is already active and is increasing his stats, but not enough to change the course of the battle, and Predation is still sealed. Taehyun's remaining mana is not enough to cause paralysis in close combat, like he did to Lee Jung-jae. He knew he had one thing left to do. He dashed towards her. He wore a serious expression on his face. Ah-young prepares to attack him using her gigantic hammer. Looking from the outside of the barrier, a bright light emerged from the orb, and it was followed by a massive explosion that collapsed the ice barrier surrounding them. Taehyun was left with that option. The staff who were watching wondered what happened since they couldn't see anything because of the fog. Taewook got worried for Taehyun, but he got confused at what he saw. It was the same with the other staff. They saw that there's a big hole in the platform, and when the fog slowly clears, Taehyun is on top of Liam Ah-young, and up close, their lips are touching. Ah-young's eyes widened in shock. Since her lips are sealed, she internally screamed while being shocked and confused. What happened earlier was this. Taehyun dashed towards Ah-young. Then, she prepares to attack him using her gigantic hammer. She smashed her hammer, making the ground collapse. She intently stares at the area where her hammer is, but something unexpected caught her attention. It was Taehyun, and this guy leapt above the ground. At the crucial moment between life and death, Taehyun has only one goal in his mind, and it was a kiss. From the looks of it, it was something like that. But the purpose was different. It was a paralysis-inducing kiss. A stat-changing skill is more effective in close distance rather than long distance, and directed inward rather than outward, where the chance of success increases significantly. So, Taehyun combined paralysis into his blood and made Ah-young swallow it. Considering a S rank that has monster-like resistance, that act was a bet. And the result was as follows. Taehyun got off her and Ah-young remained in place. A notification showed that Liam Ah-young is exposed to paralysis and the resistance failed. And instead of being mad about it, Young blushed, and since Kim Taehyun has done a fatal psychological shock to his opponent's mind, his charm has increased to 3. Our MC wiped his mouth after that kiss and smiled as his plan just barely worked, and then his attention was caught by something else. It has been announced that the first phase of trial is complete. They were informed that the medical team will now move the candidates to safety, and they have advised all candidates to wait and stay at their location. The announcement was repeated. With the completion of the first trial, all candidates who were injured were treated immediately by the medical team. Even though Young suffered paralysis, she didn't lose her trial card and was still conscious, so she passed the first phase. As for Taehyun, he managed to get 7 cards, and his unexpected achievement of defeating Yeonbok and Young has made him the center of attention in that trial. When he was walking in the hallway, he heard people gossiping about him. He didn't bother paying attention to them. Instead, he appreciated the recovery skills of the person who treated him. He wondered if he would get a skill like that later on. But then, he heard someone yell his name so loudly. It was Yeonbok, and he instantly attacked Taehyun upon seeing him while calling him a cowardly bastard. Taehyun blocked his attack with his stone-covered hand. He was surprised to see Yeonbok. Yeonbok warned him that he can use the same tricks in the location that they are currently at. Yeonbok continued to attack and attracted a crowd. The onlookers wondered if it was a revenge match. The crowd agreed that it's good for them if there's one less candidate, so they cheered for Yeonbok. Yeonbok screamed at them to mind their own business. He told them to shut up and electrified them, and then he invited Taehyun to have a fair match with him. He told him that if Taehyun doesn't have those lowly tricks, he can show him how superior he is to him. He kept laughing until it immediately turned to confusion. They both felt a strong presence, and it seemed like gravity pulled Yeonbok to the ground. He laid with his chest on the ground and the force continued to make him scream. Taehyun struggled as well and noticed something. A man had appeared. He walked towards them while commenting about inexperienced imbeciles. Shin Yeonbok kept screaming. This man continued to say that those are the people who can never let anything go quickly. Taehyun was alarmed to see this guy, and this man continued to express his frustration on the people who kept bragging without knowing themselves. Taehyun recognized that this man is the S-rank player, Park Sungjin. He is one of the strongest players of the new South Korean Player Association and a prospective double S-rank player. Sungjin noticed that Taehyun was still standing. He then raised his arm and released more of his power. Taehyun kept fighting the strong force to remain standing. He was already catching his breath. He cursed as he realized the extreme difference between awakened S-class and player S-class. He never thought that it would be to that extent. Sungjin remarked how Taehyun is still standing even after that much power. Even veteran players can't stand it. He wanted to test him more, so he increased his power. All of a sudden, someone called Park Sungjin and asked what he's doing. A doctor and a nurse run towards them. The doctor scolded him for attacking students who just finished recovering. He asked if Sungjin is planning to get rid of them before the second phase even starts. Sungjin defended that he's just disciplining him. The doctor told him that he's lying. He accused him for testing his skills in the name of disciplining them, and he does that every time. The doctor complained that he had enough of that. The doctor threatened him that if he did that again, he would be reported to the head of the association. Sungjin asked Taehyun for his name. Kim Taehyun answered his name. Park Sungjin recalled that he was the C-rank who defeated Shin Yeonbok and Lee Ma-young. That made him grin. He was pleased at the appearance of an impressive candidate after a long time. He pats Taehyun's shoulder and asks if he intentionally targeted S-rank players. He went off while saying to Taehyun that he will be waiting. Taehyun was a bit confused. The doctor and nurses chased Sungjin out. It was a funny scene. After their recovery period, the candidates were again gathered. This time, they are in a forest. The candidates anticipated the next announcement. Sungjin stood on the stage. He asked them if they all had rested. He announced that the second trial will begin. He explained that the location of the next trial is in the gate in front of them. The gate is a glowing portal that connects to a different space and dimension. and the candidates are off to a D-rank dungeon. Upon hearing that, the candidates were filled with fear and worry since dungeons have monsters. Sungjin explained that each group consisting of 5 candidates will enter the dungeon through the gate. A team with a player assigned as a supervisor will explore the dungeon, and during dungeon exploration, all actions will be evaluated such as combat, observation, knowledge, and medical measures. Weapons and necessary consumption goods will be provided by the association. He instructed the candidates to take turns and enter the gate in front of them. The second trial is a dungeon. Even beginners who have no real experience should be okay in a D-rank dungeon, especially with a player, unless they unfortunately teleported towards the double dungeon called Apocalypto. Double Dungeon Apocalypto is at rank ES. Inside the D-rank dungeon at the second player trial location, there was the first double dungeon ever discovered. Including the first explorer party, a lot of victims were annihilated, which led to dungeon break in various undiscovered dungeons. Taehyun explored the idea of them preventing that, but the association will not possibly believe his words without evidence, and even if it was revealed, he will raise suspicions. In his head, he knew it was a shame, but he decided to focus on the task. And he thought that as long as he is not part of the first explorer party, there would be enough ways to survive. The wind blew as he entered the gate, and when he reached the other side, an uninterested expression washed over his face. A player announced that with his arrival, they now have 5 people. He asked everyone if they were good to go. RMC remembered this guy as Ma Do-hak, an A-rank player that will act as their supervisor for the second round of the tests. And a special note is that this player was the one who discovered the first double dungeon Apocalypto. Taehyun figured it was the moment he knew. He fucked up. 3 monsters that looked like they were made from mud and stone attacked the candidates, but they fought back using their own unique skills and successfully defeated the monster. Their supervisor clapped and praised them. He told them that they were impressive. He added that such decisive combat intuition, despite this being their first real battle, makes them fit to be called a player. The candidates were flustered and humbly told him that they did it because of his supervision. Deep inside, Taehyun is pissed off for being in that team out of all the teams out there. He was unlucky to be part of the first discovery team. Upon looking at the Ma Do-hak's ring, he was certain that it is the unique item that the first discoverer of the double dungeon was wearing. It is called the Sage's Ring. It is unique for it boosts strength, stamina, speed, mana for 10 times. With that, Taehyun was certain that the double dungeon, Apocalypto, is definitely an S rank. And he knew that if he gets swept in, his current self, whose predation is sealed, won't survive. With determination, he planned not to let them find the Apocalypto. Their team then came to a stop. The path diverges, and they asked their supervisor, Ma Do-hak, on what they should do. Do-hak told them that it happens all the time when exploring dungeons. He suggested that they should take a majority vote, but before he could finish his sentence, Taehyun bolted at the speed of light. They were all shocked. Do-hak scolded him for acting on his own since it's dangerous, so he advised him to come back. While running, he told them that it will be okay and encouraged them to go on the path that he chose. Deep inside him, he thought about why he would leave it to him to decide. As he thought about how he won't let that happen, he ran off like a child while telling them to come. His intention is for them to take a different route than before his regression. Kim Taehyun jumps to a cliff. Ma Do-han was worried, but Taehyun urged them to follow him. In his mind, rather than letting them find Apocalypto, he would just rather die instead. Do-hak and the other candidates chased after him. He was elated for guiding the way, until he stopped on his tracks because there's a gate before him. They were all surprised to see a gate inside the dungeon, but Taehyun knew it was the double dungeon, Apocalypto. Inside his head, he cursed for going through a whole maze, yet that is where he ended up. A candidate then suddenly wanted to check it out. In panic, Taehyun ordered everyone to stop. His reaction elicited confusion from the team. He raised his tone and asked them if they couldn't see it at the first glance. He explained that another gate different from the dungeon's entrance is weird, no matter what angle it is. He suggested that they report an unusual incident before anything. He wanted to get the support of Do-hak in that idea. Do-hak replied that it's his first time seeing something like that. And as per the rules, Do-hak confirmed that reporting to the HQ would be the right thing to do. Taehyun let out a sigh of relief, but he was surprised with Do-hak's next statement. Do-hak suggested that they should go inside. Taehyun couldn't believe it. Do-hak acknowledged Kim Taehyun's thoughts, but he explained that the mana that he is sensing from the gate, unlike its appearance, isn't dangerous. He added that besides, it's merely a D-ranked dungeon, so even if something were to happen, he, being an A-rank player, is there to handle it. He continued to say that whether the association prepared the gate or it was an unusual occurrence, exploring it will definitely score the team good points. Due to his mixed emotions, he raised his voice and asked Do-hak if he's out of his mind. He reminded him of the rules of exploring Abyss. Do-hak cut him off mid-sentence. He laughed at the thought of the rules. He pointed a finger at Taehyun and asked if a member of a team who doesn't even know how to cooperate should be saying that. The other candidate's second demoted and blamed Taehyun for running whimsically. One of the candidates told him not to forget his place just because he's a little skilled. Another one added that he's being arrogant by retorting against an active player. Taehyun got angry. Do-hak concluded that everything is decided. Taehyun tried to protest and urged him to give it another thought, but Do-hak had already snapped his finger, and they saw a white light. It covered the whole place. It was so bright that only their silhouette was seen, until the light became smaller and they're no longer in that place. Taehyun was surprised and horrified. They all went through the gate. Do-hak was stunned at what he saw. As the other candidates looked around, they wondered if it's really a D-rank dungeon since it's strange. They stood in a large hallway leading towards a massive statue, and everything around them is covered in red glow. The massive statue at the end holds a sword. On a closer look, its face is covered in a veil, and its eye sockets are hollow. The candidates questioned Do-hak on what's going on, and if he's really sure that it's a D-rank dungeon. Taehyun told all of them to shut up and look in front of them. One of the candidates was annoyed with him for being rude, but he did not pay attention and told them that something was coming. And he was right. Two figures are moving towards them, and these figures looked exactly the same as the statue. Upon seeing it, they recognized that it was an A-rank Death Knight, and they panicked. They wondered how those A ranks were there. Do-hak felt a sense of doom. He instructed everyone to get ready for battle. The Death Knights rushed towards them and sliced them with their swords. The candidates screamed in fear while Do-hak evaded the attack. He used his powers against those he called filthy monsters. Lava suddenly appeared below the Death Knights, and after a few seconds, the lava formed into sharp blades, and it pierced right through their opponents. The Death Knights groaned, but it had no effect on them. Do-hak saw that as a chance and told everyone to attack. He strategized and told them to use fire and flash at maximum to cover the monster's sight, and then he instructed the one with the shield to defend the front line, and then the rest should not give the enemy space and to continue countering. The candidates exactly followed his strategy. The Death Knights laid on the ground. All of them were breathing heavily as they observed the bodies. The only female candidate uttered that they're finally safe. She added that no one would have thought that they would take down A-rank monsters. The other candidate boastfully expressed that it was no big deal and that he could take them on again. Unbeknownst to him, another Death Knight is approaching. When they sensed it, they all turned their attention to it. There were another 4 Death Knights, and they were all eager to attack the candidates. All of them had the same horrified expression on their faces. Meanwhile, Taehyun was busy inspecting the body of the defeated Death Knight. He felt that something was off. He looked at their bodies. Do-hak is catching his breath. He cursed in his mind when he noticed that every time they defeat one of the monsters, they came back twice the number. On top of that, the candidates were all exhausted. Everyone is at their limits, and he knows that if it continues, they will all die. Taehyun told Do-hak that something was off. He watched Taehyun's calm expression as he approached him. Do-hak wondered who Taehyun was. After all that fighting, Taehyun is not even tired, and he was the first to realize that the gate was dangerous. And on top of that, if it was not for Monarch's stats, the team's stats won't be higher, and they wouldn't have even lasted that long. He's suspicious if he was really a C-rank awakened. He then asked Taehyun what he meant when he said that something is off. Our MC admitted that he might just be guessing, but those monsters don't seem to be Death Knights. They were all shocked and rejected the idea. They questioned what they were fighting against all this time. Taehyun gripped one of the swords and answered that he's going to go and find that out. He also activated his stone skin upon touching the weapon. Taehyun has dashed right towards the army of the said Death Knights. He did not hesitate to approach them with an incredible speed. The monsters raised their weapons against him. The collision caused a huge explosion. The monster was confused. When the smoke cleared, Taehyun was no longer standing there. They didn't know that he was above them. Kim Taehyun ran above their heads, and when he found the right opportunity, he decided to attack. But he's not aiming for those moving monsters. Instead, his target was the statue. His sword was about to reach the statue. It pierced its head, and then the statue was shattered into pieces. But nothing happened, and the monsters were chasing him. All of a sudden, the monsters that were about to reach him from behind glowed, and they started disappearing. The whole area is being cleared of the gloomy red scene. Do-hak was shocked to see that everything they saw was an illusion. Taehyun confirmed that it is indeed an illusion trap. It's a trap that shows an imaginary space and enemies. It's a tactic to drain the intruder's energy. One of the candidates was annoyed with the idea that they struggled just because of a mere illusion. The female candidate dared to ask if something far worse will follow. Do-hak inquired on how Taehyun knew that it was a trap, especially that it's impossible that he fought with a Death Knight before. Our MC answered that even if he may not know much about it, and with a serious expression, he expressed that he knew there's no way that Death Knights would have been that weak. Do-hak was extremely shocked with Taehyun's statement. Taehyun encouraged them to get moving before they all got killed. They walk on a dark path and their only source of light is the power of Do-hak. Taehyun is supporting one of the candidates. The illusion faded, but things did not get any better. After the Apocalypto's manifestation, the dungeon space was completely transformed. The injuries inflicted in battle against the illusion got worse, yet they couldn't just wait for rescue. Their only hope was to find the dungeon's exit. After a while, they saw something above them and Do-hak declared that they found it. The door in front of them was so massive that they have to look up since they're close to it. The candidates find it suspicious and dangerous. But Do-hak told them that if they don't open it, they know that they will just perish in that dungeon. The door was then slowly opened. Do-hak was the one that led their entrance. And from that little crease, he was surprised at what he saw. There were several skulls on the side, and at the center of it is a crouched knight being supported by his sword. It was the same monster as the illusion earlier. They were surprised to see a Death Knight. One of the candidates celebrated since there's only one, but later on, their purple halos glowed and revealed more Death Knights. The shock froze them. All of a sudden, the skulls on the side emitted fire that illuminated the whole room. It revealed that there were more Death Knights on the side, and the room had several floors, all housing Death Knights. An army of it stood before them, with a leader in front. They trembled as they took a look around. The pressure inside the room suddenly felt too heavy, because right in the middle there was a Death Knight sitting on a throne. It spoke and addressed the lowly humans who dared to come in there. This Death Knight had a glowing purple mask on one side of the face, and he announced for the battle to begin. This right here is the master of the double dungeon Apocalypto. He is the Lord of the Death Knights and is at S rank. The surrounding Death Knights moved. In perfect synchrony, they all pounded the tips of their swords on the ground. The Death Knights marched forward. The Death Knight that was in front pointed its sword at them. The candidates were confused on what's going on and why the Death Knight acted that way. Taehyun expressed that it looked like the knight wanted a one-on-one duel. They panicked upon hearing that. One of them complained that he doesn't have any magic left in him. Taehyun told them to calm down and reminded them that their goal is to escape, not to fight. But because of their fear, 3 of the candidates bolted. They claimed that they would rather go back to where they started. They ran for their lives. One Death Knight saw them and acted immediately. The slash went through Do-hak and Taehyun as it was intended for those who were running away. It directly hit those 3, to which resulted in them coughing up blood. Do-hak and Taehyun were surprised to see that. Taehyun was horrified. He yelled for his supervisor. He told him that they will buy them some time so he should go find the exit. But something unexpected happened. Do-hak threw him and the other candidate he's supporting away from the door, and Do-hak casted a spell. A wall suddenly appeared right in front of our MC. Taehyun panicked and asked what nonsense he was doing. Do-hak told him to shut up and reminded him not to act so high and mighty as a low-level awakener. Taehyun was caught off guard and got confused. Do-hak then admitted that he wanted to be an S-rank player, but no matter how much he trained and improved, he only felt farther from it instead of feeling closer. He expressed that he sees this as an opportunity for him. If he could resolve that special case, he might be treated almost as good as an S-rank, even though it ends up that way. Do-hak followed that with a loud laugh. The Death Knight rushed towards him. He activated his magic and drew a triangle, and it sliced through the Death Knight. Do-hak continued to speak with Taehyun. He told him that he's different from him. He hated to admit it, but he expressed that Kim Taehyun has the talent, and with that, he urged him to run away, to take the injured and escape as far as he can. He told him that it's the role of the supervisor to hold the enemies off. It was his duty as a supervisor at the magic school. Do-hak gathered all his strength for a powerful attack. Taehyun couldn't believe his supervisor. He turned to look at the candidates. Our MC was still hoping to save some of them, but by the looks of it, they were already dead. An intense pressure then enveloped his body and his blood drained from his face, and at that moment, the wall behind him collapsed. He turned to see what had happened. Taehyun saw his supervisor face down on the ground, and the sword of the Death Knight pierced his back. Several Death Knights were lined up in front of him. The sword was deep and made Do-hak's backside. He laid there lifeless. Taehyun had a doomed expression on his face. The other candidates were also dead. Emotions overwhelmed Taehyun as he stood there frozen. The Death Knight removed his sword from Do-hak's body and pointed that sword at Taehyun and invited him to a duel. Everyone's death haunts him. He just stood frozen with a sword pointed at his face. Moments passed, and none of them moved. Something caught Taehyun's attention. A shiny object was in front of him. It was the Sage's ring. He remembered that his supervisor wore it. And since they were getting no response, the Death Knight decided to slice him off. Taehyun's eyes were still focused on the ring. Right at the very last moment, he managed to evade the attack while retrieving the ring. He knew that this item right here was his only chance to make it out there alive. He wore the ring and begged. Taehyun begged it to wake up. The ring's red crystal glowed. The Death Knights had him surrounded. The ring's light grew brighter than it was already blinding. The Lord of the Death Knights was surprised, because in just a single move, the knights surrounding Taehyun got defeated. The whole area was suddenly painted with an ominous red glow. The Lord of the Knights was confused. He ordered his men to wake up and wondered what kind of power was that. A notification window had appeared. It announced that the Sage Ring has been equipped and all stats are increased by 10. It also announced that all conditions are met and the seal of Predation is released. That changed Kim Taehyun's gaze, making him appear menacing. Starting from now, the real fight begins.
After that, Taehyun starts attacking the Death Knights, and while attacking, Taehyun thinks the time it takes to completely devour using Predation is about 10 seconds. I can't only depend on Predation. All the skills I've collected this whole time, all the stats I've accumulated, I'm going to make use of each and every last bit. Only then can I survive through this. After that, we suddenly sees a very strong explosion which causes a smoke. Then Taehyun sees a very big spear in front of him. While looking at the weapon, Taehyun thinks, what the hell is that? After that, suddenly, the Lord of Death Knights stands up from his throne and starts attacking Taehyun. While looking at this, Taehyun gets shocked and tries to avoid his attacks by running. But suddenly, a lightning attack towards him from which he couldn't able to protect himself. Then, while attacking Taehyun, the Lord of Death Knight says, "You are powerful. However, that is your limit." After that, from his powerful attacks, Taehyun falls down, and the Lord of Death Knights puts his foot on his head and tells Taehyun that I have one last question for you. Who bestowed that power to you? After that, the Lord of Dark Knight tries to roar, but he couldn't able to do that. Then suddenly again, the notification window opens up in front of them, in which it's written a mysterious power is resisting the Night King's roar. A part of that resistance has been successful. After that, the Night King says, I already knew that. Unlike regular humans, you could understand our language. So tell me, what is that power of yours? Meanwhile, suddenly Taehyun finds himself in the mysterious place, and he sees a strange entity is standing in front of him. After that, both of them looks each other, then Taehyun looks around and sees all of the people who were with him before he came to that strange place, but none of them were conscious. Then, while looking at all this, Taehyun thinks nothing is different than how it was back then. What exactly is this predation skill? How did I, a human, start understanding the language of monsters? Completely oblivious of it all, I only acquired powers and a chance, yet still nothing changed. Why did the king give me his power? After that, suddenly someone says, I'm certain I already told you why. After listening to Taehyun gets shocked that how this strange entity know what I'm thinking. Then he sees him coming towards him. After that, the king tells him that I was simply moved by your determination and tenacity. You don't need to change. Just move forward. After that, suddenly Taehyun opens his eyes and comes back to his world where he was fighting with Night King. While looking at him, the Night King says, seems you no longer have the strength to answer me. Pathetic human, this is your end. After that, he suddenly sees Taehyun standing on his feet to attack him back. Then, while attacking the Night King, Taehyun says, you insect. After that, Night King asks him, you're trying to go berserk with that skill while in that condition. Then suddenly the notification starts coming that mana has increased by 1. After that, while looking at him, the Night King says, excellent. That last struggle. You entertain me to the very end. Then the Night King attacks him with his full power, but he sees that now the attack is not working on Taehyun. After that, Taehyun asks him, you're curious about what exactly this power is. Then the knight asks, yes, what is this power? After that, while attacking him, Taehyun says, find out for yourself. Then suddenly again, the notification window opens up in which it's written that you have advanced to B rank. After that, Taehyun starts attacking Night King with his powerful attacks. While looking at this, the Night King asks him, how dare a lowly human like you? Then, while attacking the Night King, Taehyun replies, this is no human power. This is the king's power. After that, the Night King gets vanished from his powerful attacks, and the notification window opens up again that a new skill, Night King's spirit, has been registered. Who is the strange entity which give Taehyun so much power? Is he a real evil whom Taehyun going to face in future, or is he really helping Taehyun by giving him his power to protect the world? What will happen next? To find out, do like, share, subscribe, and comment if you want the next part as soon as possible. And hit the thanks button to show us some support. Thanks for watching. Sayonara.